How's it going? In this video, we are going to be talking about how to monetize live events. Throwing events is an absolute blast, but of course, in order to make it sustainable, you need to generate an income somehow. So in this video, I'm going to be diving into the most common ways I have used or seen to generate income from live events. Let's dive in. So the first method for monetizing your live event that I want to talk about is selling tickets. And honestly, selling tickets is probably the most common way to generate income from an event. It's simple, it's proven, and it can be applied to pretty much any type of event. And we're talking about public events here. Typically, it's not that much of a priority to monetize private events. Definitely not common in weddings. But even for the private events that we throw for our community, those events are purely for the community because they've already invested into the program that they are in, that the events are thrown for. So it wouldn't really make any sense for us to monetize the event itself. So most of these strategies are going to be for public events. Anyways, back to tickets. Although that selling tickets is one of the most common ways to generate revenue from an event, it can be pretty hard to make healthy profit margins from those ticket sales due to the overhead cost of events. Now, this is just for me, but when I am planning my events, I typically plan to break even with ticket sales. So, for example, if I'm spending $1 million on the event, I want to generate around $1 million in ticket revenue. That way, any revenue that's made at the event itself is pure profit. Now, this is just a strategy that I use. There are definitely events out there that make a bunch of money from selling tickets. You just have to find that price point that makes sense with your market and your audience. And of course, you need to establish a budget that allows you to generate healthy profit margins. All right, now I want to dive into a few ways to generate more revenue from tickets for your events. The first way might be a little risky, but that's just to simply charge more for your tickets. There's a certain point when you're going to start to meet price resistance on your ticket prices. However, I can almost guarantee you that you are not charging that maximum amount for your tickets right now. For most of my events, we do a tiered ticket system, which means as we get closer to the event, the ticket prices increase. They'll start out anywhere from $197 to $297, and towards the end, they'll be anywhere between $697 to $997. And we typically see most of our ticket sales happening in those last few weeks before the event, when those tickets are $700, $800, and $900. Now, I don't know if we charge that price for the entire time if we would sell the same amount of tickets. However, it has opened my mind to the amount of money people are willing to spend to attend my events. And I know that the same is yours. So if you have the freedom, I would definitely recommend testing out different price points for your events. And maybe even consider doing a tiered approach where you slowly increase the prices of your tickets as you get closer to the event. Because that way you will still sell a bunch of tickets with your cheaper prices. And you'll also be able to see if your audience will buy those more expensive tickets once it's closer to your event. Another way to generate more revenue from selling tickets is to sell different types of tickets. A very standard approach to this are creating general admission and VIP ticket groups. Right now for an event I'm planning, the general admission tickets are $297 and the VIP tickets are $997. However, the fulfillment for both of these ticket groups is the exact same. So the profit on VIP tickets is much higher than general admission tickets. And yeah, we definitely won't sell as many VIP tickets as we build general admission tickets, but every VIP ticket sold definitely helps with our margins. So if you're throwing an event and you're looking for more ways to generate revenue, I'd definitely consider setting up different groups of tickets so that you can charge more and generate more profit. The final method I want to talk about for generating more revenue from tickets is to upsell on your tickets. A great example of this would be selling something like backstage passes to your event. So imagine somebody's going and checking out on your event website and they purchase a VIP ticket. Once they finish their purchase, on that next page, they have a chance to buy a $1,000 backstage pass. And this is on top of their VIP ticket. And yeah, a lot of people won't take it, but let's say 10 to 15% do. That is all money in the bank for you. Because if you structure it properly, there won't be any more overhead costs associated with that upsell. So that $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 or whatever you decide to charge for your upsell can be pure profit. And there's a bunch of other different types of passes and access types that you can sell as an upsell. Maybe it's even a merchandise bundle or a coaching call with you. Whatever it is, if you structure it properly, you can generate a ton of revenue from these upsells. One way that we generate a lot of revenue with our events is once somebody purchases a ticket, they have an opportunity to hop on a call with our sales team. And believe it or not, a lot of these people who buy tickets and then hop on these calls end up buying another program of ours. Sometimes even spending up to $30,000 after buying a $297 general admission ticket. That's turning a $297 customer into a $30,000 customer, which definitely helps with profit margins. So if you're looking for another way to generate revenue from from tickets, I'd definitely consider looking into the upsell model. All right, the second method for generating revenue at a live event that I want to talk about is selling a product, service, or software at the event itself. And this is pretty much our bread and butter for the events that we throw. Like I said, my goal is to break even on ticket sales when going into the event so that all of the revenue generated at the event is pure profit. And for us, that revenue comes from the products and services that we sell at the events. For our main event, Fund Launch Live, we are typically selling just one program, and that is our Black Card program that is $30,000. The reason we only sell one product is to just keep it very simple. I've seen events that have tried to sell multiple different types of products, and it actually becomes quite complicated when trying to differentiate between the different products and deciding which one you should get into. We like to keep it simple and give the attendee one product to purchase if they are interested in purchasing, and if we think that product will actually help them. Something else that I want to mention is events actually create the perfect buying atmosphere. If you think about the person that is buying a ticket to attend your event, they are probably one of the hottest leads you can have, because not only did they buy a ticket to your event, but they bought a hotel room and they bought plane tickets to fly to some location to come to your event, to take time out of their lives to attend your event. And when they're at their event, they are fully immersed in the community. They're talking to other members, they see all of your branding, they see pretty much all of the best things you have to offer. So it's likely that if they're ever going to buy another product from you, it's going to be there at the event. The event that I mentioned, Fund Launch Live, is a 3-day event, and we will typically give our attendees a chance to join our program on day 2. And of course, we make this a very small part of the event. It's important that you're giving a ton of value before you ask for something, but we genuinely believe in our product and we know that it will help the people that are at the event. So it's almost our duty to give them an opportunity to join. However, it's very low stakes, it's very low pressure. If somebody isn't ready to join the program or they just don't want to, they don't have to. They can simply say no and enjoy the rest of the event. I've also seen a lot of events sell a software. I definitely think that does pretty well. So if you're throwing an event and you're looking for a way to monetize, I'd highly recommend selling a software product or service. If you want to learn more about creating coaching programs or selling services or softwares, I definitely recommend checking out Russell Brunson and all of his books. I'll link them down in the description below, but they've absolutely changed my life and they're the reason that our company is as successful as it is today. The third method for monetizing live events I want to talk about is selling merchandise. Now, before I dive into this, I have sold merchandise at my events before. However, I have not done it very well. In the past, my merch booths have been kind of off in the corner and not very flashy with just a few different variations of clothing. And yes, we've generated a couple $1,000s in revenue, but it's definitely nothing to write home about. However, to go back to the event Funnel Hacking Live, they have absolutely perfected the merchandise. They strategically plant their merch booth right outside of the grand ballroom door so that whenever you're waiting to go into the session, you have to just sit there and look at their marvelous, amazing setup for their merch booth. I'm not even kidding. It feels like a Macy's pop-up. You can actually walk into the store. There's a bunch of different clothing racks with a bunch of different types of merchandise, something that fits everyone's style. And they actually have staff inside of that store that helps you pick out the merchandise that's best for you. It truly is an amazing experience. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I know they make a lot of money from their merchandise. Even though I haven't really done a good job at selling merchandise at my events, I do still think it's important. People like to identify with movements and communities, and a good way to let them do that is to sell merchandise so they can actually identify with your event, your community, and your brand. Also, in a way, it's a good source of publicity. Whenever somebody wears your event t-shirt out on a run or to their job or working out, someone might see that and ask them about it, which could send a lead your way. Here are a few bonus tips for selling merchandise at your event. The first one I have is to order samples before putting in a bulk order. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory, but it's definitely a good idea to order a sample of something before you order a couple hundred to a couple thousand pairs, because once you put in that big order, there's no going back. I guarantee most companies do not offer refunds on bulk orders. So make sure you order a sample, make sure you like it before you put in that order. Up next is to order your merchandise at least 5 weeks before your event. Now, 5 weeks might even be pushing it. I typically like to order my merchandise for events in the 6 to 8 week range. However, you never know with shipping delays how long something could actually take to arrive. So just to be safe, make sure you're putting in your orders early. The third tip I have is to give yourself at least 30 to 60% margins on your merchandise. Now, I know a lot of events and concerts in the music industry have ridiculously expensive merchandise. I typically like to get 30 to 60% margins on my merchandise. So if it costs me $10 to make a shirt, I typically sell it for $20 to $25. This makes sense for myself and my events. It's cheap enough to not see any price resistance with the attendees, and it also gives me enough profit margin to help out with the overall revenue generated from the event. If you want, you can charge more, but for my events, I typically stay within the 30 to 60% profit margin range. The fourth tip I have is to give your attendees at least a few different options. It's unlikely that everybody at your event is going to have the same style, so make sure you're creating a few different variations of merchandise to cater to people that have different tastes. The fifth tip I have is, if you have not already started doing this, make sure you start to collect size data on your attendees. When I first began throwing events, I was pretty much guessing for all of my events, and I ended up wasting a lot of money on sizes that were not very common within my attendee group. A good way to do this is to collect that data when they're purchasing a ticket, or to collect it in surveys before the event or at the event. And once you start to accumulate this size data, you'll be able to see on average what sizes your attendees have, and you can allocate your money properly. The last tip I have for merchandise is to order 10% more than the attendees that you're expecting at your event. That way it makes it harder to sell out of a certain size. And also, if you have a bunch of people show up to your event that you weren't anticipating, you'll have enough merch for them. Method number 4 is to sell booth spots at your event. Essentially, when you are selling someone a booth spot, you are allowing them to come and offer their product, software, or service to your attendees. And believe it or not, a lot of businesses will pay a lot of money to do this. For example, at this upcoming event, we are charging $5,000 to $10,000 for booth spots, and we are definitely getting people to sign up. This is a massive win for these businesses because they get to put themselves in front of their ideal customer and actually have a conversation with them and show them what they have to offer. And a lot of the companies that we are allowing to have booth spots have pretty expensive offers. So if they sell just one customer, it'll be well worth it for them. Finally, it's important to be aware of the associated costs that come along with having booths at your event. This includes power, labor, the cost of branding, rental fees, and a few others depending on the venue you are hosting your event at. Now, of course, these fees will vary from venue to venue. Some will be kind of cheap and some will be super expensive. But regardless, it's important that you are aware of these costs, and the businesses that you are selling these booth spots to are aware of the costs as well. Now, something that we do is we create different packages, with some having us cover those costs and some having the business cover those costs. These costs can be pretty annoying, but if you're aware of them and you incorporate them into your packages, it really won't be that big of a headache. If you're going to be having booths at your event, I definitely recommend starting as early as possible because negotiations can take longer than you think. Additionally, a lot of these businesses like to have their marketing and the events that they appear at planned out at least 6 months in advance. So if you're waiting to hit up these businesses a couple months before your event, it's likely that their calendars are already going to be booked. All right, the fifth and final method for monetizing live events I want to talk about is retention and the long game. So something that we've seen at our company is that people that attend events typically spend more money with us. And not only do they spend more money with us, but they stay in our programs longer. A few months ago, we did some data analysis and we found that 80% of the people that renew into our program attend the live events that are associated with the program. That's a pretty significant number. And we've also seen that people who attend events and buy tickets to our events are just more active in our community and typically buy more products down the line. And outside of retention and generating revenue, another massive benefit of throwing events is it strengthens your community. We're at the point now where everyone is super familiar with each other at the events that we throw. And every time we throw an event, it's like a family reunion. And that is super special. Throwing live events will help with retention. It'll increase the amount of money your customers will spend with you, and it will also strengthen your community. So if you're throwing live events or you're considering throwing live events, I'd highly recommend investing a ton of time and energy into these events and making sure that they are great experiences for your attendees, because there really are a lot of direct and indirect benefits. All right, that's all I have for this video. As you can see, there are a ton of ways to monetize live events, and there are definitely more that were not mentioned in this video, but hopefully you are able to take one of these strategies and apply it to your events to make more money. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.